Hi guys, and welcome to another episode with Andre Walker, my good friend, my good shouty Brexiteer friend, the guy, as some people in the comment section describe as that guy down the pub who always has an opinion on everything. Now, in this episode, he's going to talk about tariffs, and if you believe it, I have a better understanding of tariffs than Andre Walker has, and I know very little about tariffs. So let's see what he had to say.
Well, I've just finished watching the 10 o'clock news. I know I shouldn't be watching the mainstream media. We don't want to infect ourselves with that dishonesty. But it's worth every now and again watching what they're up to. And they've just broadcast a package which talked about import duty if we leave with a no-deal Brexit. It is grossly dishonest. In fact, what it's saying is the opposite of truth. Let's just roll a little...
Wow, so he's saying here, he's going to show something from the BBC, and he's going to demonstrate how the information in this video from the BBC is completely false. Okay.
Clip of it.
For decades, the UK and the rest of the European Union have bought and sold goods across borders without checks or taxes, known as tariffs.
But if there's no deal, then companies will have to operate under rules set by the World Trade Organization. That means that most of the food imported to the UK from the EU will attract an extra tax. The British Retail Consortium has calculated that it will mean 48% on beef mince, 16% on cucumbers and 57% on cheddar cheese.
Well, there you go. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? If we want to continue to import beef, we have to pay a 48% tariff. Nightmare. Actually, it's simply not true. The opposite is true.
The opposite. So, okay, so Andre is going to show us his source to refute this evidence from the BBC. Okay, what is your source?
At the moment, the EU sets tariffs on products imported from outside the European Union to Britain. Those tariffs are, and I've got a list of them here, and you are going to be absolutely staggered by them. Fresh lamb, 76%.
No. They were talking about beef, cheese, and cucumbers. And you said that was wrong. So can you tell us about the beef, cheese, and cucumbers?
Fresh sheep, 55%.
No, they didn't talk about sheep. They talked about beef, cheese, and cucumbers.
Fresh sheep, short 4/4. Don't know what that is, but you have to pay 37% on that. And then you've got things like lamb carcasses.
Sorry, why are you talking about lamb? The report from the BBC was talking about beef, cucumber. Did everyone here watch something different? Did I skip something here? The original video talked about look. Let me just beef, cucumbers, cheese, and Andre's talking about
55%. Fresh sheep, short 4/4. Don't know what that is, but you have to pay 37% on that. And then you've got things like lamb carcasses, 46%. Chilled boneless sheep meat, 60%.
Okay. Did I just... Sorry, maybe I missed something here.
All of these products, of course, are made in New Zealand. And the reason why, when you were younger, you used to be able to get New Zealand lamb relatively cheap, but now it's an absolute rip-off, is because of all of these tariffs that the EU is placing on now. Right.
And why do you think that's the case, Andre? Why do you think that these tariffs exist? Let's hear if he says why he thinks these tariffs exist.
When we leave the European Union transition period...
Okay, he hasn't explained why tariffs exist. Tariffs exist to protect industries. You know, there is sheep farming in the UK. If there are tariffs on imported sheep, meat, lamb or whatever, it's to protect the industries in the UK. Now if you can disagree with that, But that's the function of the tariff.
On the 31st December, assuming Boris doesn't sell us out, then we will make decisions on what the import duty into the UK will be. Now, I hope...
Actually, I don't think that's the case, because you have been pushing the idea of WTO. You said, look, we're going to leave on WTO terms. WTO, WTO, WTO. Now, I'm not an expert on the WTO, but as far as I know, and hopefully if I make a mistake here, someone can correct me in the comment section, the WTO will decide, or with you and the WTO will decide the tariff. You don't get to set the tariff. It has to be agreed with the WTO.
That we're going to stop charging, 76% on New Zealand lamb and bring that down to 0. Similarly, products that...
Okay, but if you bring the tariff down to 0, what will happen to the UK farmers? You know, if the tariff is brought down to 0 and in New Zealand are able to sell it much cheaper, what would that mean for the UK farmers? They will go out of business. Do you understand why there's a tariff?
Come in from Africa, and there are a lot of foodstuffs that come in from Africa. Suddenly, let's have a 0 tariff on them as well.
You want to destroy UK industries.
Sugar, cane sugar from the Caribbean. Let's have a 0 tariff on that.
Don't you understand that there are beet farmers in the UK that want to sell their sugar? If you take away the tariff, then the cane sugar will be really cheap, and the beet sugar will go out of business. They won't be able to compete. The tariff is protecting the local industry. Now, some countries will inflate the tariff, will put it way up in order to overly protect their local industry, and we can argue whether that's ethical or not. But if you reduce the tariff to 0, you're destroying your local industry. Now, you could reduce the tariff to 0. I think, once again, I'm not an expert on tariffs, and I don't know if it's permitted in the WTO. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Normally, if you have a trade deal with another country, then, as far as I know, you can reduce the tariffs to 0, because both sides say, look, we agree on this product to have a 0 tariff. As far as I know, that's possible because it's outside the WTO, because you have a trade deal with them. Now, you don't want a trade deal with the European Union. Do you want a trade deal with New Zealand? I don't know. You probably say, yes, I do. You don't want one with the EU for some reason, but you want one with New Zealand. So technically, I imagine you could have a 0 tariff with New Zealand. But what would happen to the UK farmers in that case? Once again, I think Andre doesn't understand how tariffs works. He just thinks, well, if we reduce it to 0, it makes everything cheaper. Yes, it does. But it has a consequence.
That is why prices will reduce, because what is happening at the moment is not a free trade zone. What it is an attempt to protect European producers,
including British ones. Because you were part of the European Union, you were protected as well. Look, we can argue about protectionism. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? In some industries, you could probably say it is a good thing. In some other industries, you'd say it's a bad thing. But you can't say it's automatically bad because it's the European Union. I understand you're a Brexiteer, and anything European for you is terrible. But you have to separate yourself from from this mindset just for a moment. You know, I don't know. Is Andre the type of person who goes into the supermarket and picks up a product, and if he sees made in the EU or made in France or made in Italy or made in Germany, then he throws it on the floor and says, I don't want, give me some hand sanitizer, I want to clean my hands. This is the sort of mentality I'm imagining. I really am lost for words.
Do is, because the French cannot produce lamb as efficiently as New Zealand, they slap us.
And the UK can't produce lamb as efficiently. I don't like the term efficiently, but can't produce it as efficiently as the New Zealanders. the UK either. That's why there's a tariff. That's why the UK farmers would prefer to have a tariff, because it protects them. It increases the price, so they're able to compete.
A 76% tariff on New Zealand lamb. And it goes right across the board, whether it be wine from the Napa Valley, whether it be chocolate from Ghana, whether it be, I don't know, sugar, as I said, from the Caribbean. All of them attract tariffs in order to protect European producers. Now,
including UK ones.
When we are able to take those tariffs away, prices in British shops will fall, not rise. And so when people say to you that tariffs will rise when we leave the European Union, then you have to answer very simply as follows. No, they won't.
You don't know that, because if you're, as you have been continually saying, we're leaving on WTO terms, then some tariffs may actually increase. Now, some tariffs may decrease, but that depends on the industry. Now, if what Brexiteers want to do is destroy the entire UK industry completely, where you have no industry, then technically, yes, you could probably say, look, we have no we have no farming industry, so we can reduce the tariffs to zero. We just want to import everything. We don't want to export anything. We don't want to produce anything in this country. We just want to import 100% of everything. And then you can maybe get a zero tariff. But as far as I know, a zero tariff is only when you have a trade deal. It's not on WTO terms.
And the British government, for the first time in 40 years, will have the power to take away the 76% tariff on New Zealand lamb.
But once again, unfortunately, Andre didn't explain the beef part, the cucumbers, or the cheese. I'm still waiting for him to debunk the BBC here. He said at the beginning of the video, I'm going to debunk, they were telling lies. But he hasn't explained how they've been telling lies.
I hope it will do it. But back to the BBC. They will never admit to you that actually prices will fall. But you know something? We've talked before, haven't we, about prices.
They'll never admit that prices will fall. You haven't demonstrated prices will fall. You're assuming that when you leave that you'll be able to reduce tariffs to zero. But what about locally produced food? Won't it go up in price? Because you'll have fewer farmers producing less, which means you'll pay more. Isn't that just basic economics?
Prices going up in shops. We've talked before about the Brexit famine, food shortages that will take place. You know what? If Boris holds his nerve, in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to find out that all of these people were talking absolute baloney. And let me tell you something. The sad fact about this is the people that have done it at the BBC will get away scot-free. That is...
Okay, so let's finish it here, because I don't even know what else to say. Look, I'm not, as I said at the beginning, I'm not an expert on tariffs. I'm not an expert on any of this, but I'm just going by the data. Now, I just want to show you this information from this website, Statistica. It shows the amount of mutton and lamb consumed in the UK per year, and in grams. This is per person. Per person per week. It's 36 grams per person per week. Now, if we compare it to the amount of beef consumed by, so this is UK consumption per capita. This is a better graph, actually. You can see here that lamb and sheep in 2009, 2019. Okay, 4.12 kilograms per capita. 4.12 kilograms per capita. Beef 11.62. And poultry 28.32 kilograms per capita. Why did Andre focus on this number, on this consumption of sheep, and not this one, beef, when the BBC was talking about beef? The BBC were not talking about poultry, about lamb or mutton. They were talking about beef, and they were talking about cheese as well. But Andres focused on something unrelated to that. Brexiteers will try to find any excuse to say that Brexit it will be a success. This is a success. We're able to reduce tariffs to 0. And unfortunately, I'm looking at the likes on this channel, on this video, and it's 1,400 likes to 46 dislikes. I haven't clicked on it, I promise, but people seem to think he's telling the truth. People seem to think that he understands tariffs. People seem to think that you can implement 0 tariffs. People seem to think that the UK will be able to implement 0 tariffs without any consequences to UK industries. And that's not true. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. And do correct me if I say something wrong. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?